Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. It is close season, but there is still plenty to talk about, not least recruitment. The transfer window is open, and after last summer, expectations for new signings are probably quite reasonable, aren't they? So, making his podcast debut, and we're very, very pleased to have him on, is Oscar, who you may know on Twitter as ITFC Analytics. Oscar, where are you and how are you doing?
I'm fine, Ben. How are you?
I'm lovely. Whereabouts are you in the country?
I'm based in Bath, so I'm part of the Southwest Brigade.
Another one of the Southwest Brigade. And how did you come to support Ipswich?
My mum's family are all from Ipswich, so I always visit my granddad over there, and my
It's a
dad took me
curse,
to games.
isn't it? It's a curse. And how did you get into? First of all, plug the Twitter account. Tell people what I'm sure lots of people that follow us and watch us already follow you, but give the Twitter account a little plug and tell us how you sort of got into it.
Yeah, so it's ITFC Analytics on Twitter. I'm looking this summer to probably produce some scouting reports on our new signings, barring Ball and Ladapo. It's too late now, obviously. Um, But yeah, any new signings, I'll post some dashboards, scout reports, looking at them with video analysis and etc.
And this is sort of becoming more and more common now on Twitter. I think the gap between fans and sort of decent analysis and decent numbers is getting smaller and smaller, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting a lot smaller. I think McKenna's definitely helped that with our fan base. Um, I'd say there was a gap previously, but it's definitely going down with
100%.
his
So yeah, give Oscar a follow at ITFC Analytics, and something that you will find. I think it's pinned up there on his Twitter is the Ipswich Town recruitment plan, which is an incredibly detailed, I think, 100 pages of
yeah.
analysis and ideas of signings and whatnot. We're going to have a little look at that and a little chat about that. So if you do want to follow along, hit pause on YouTube or on the podcast right now and head over to at ITFC Analytics, and it's the pinned tweet, and you can follow along. Oscar, you've laid it out in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 segments. If you're watching on YouTube, you're able to see it on the screen now. League and team performance analysis, squad depth and style of play analysis, player performance overview in 21-22 season, recruitment introduction, and then the bit that I think people are going to be sort of most excited about, because we love talking about transfers and speculating about players, is the sort of recruitment plan. Can you just, before we go into detail, broadly sort of tell us about this document and what the sort of aims of it are?
It was a long time. It was a big process to get through it. I'll say that. It was a couple months of hard work, maybe two. Um, but yeah, it was just a bit of fun, really, and just showing what skills I can do. For anyone of note, if they wanted to have a look in the football industry, etc. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to. A lot of the documents that I see get put out, no disrespect, it's a lot like data based, and then like here's like their data, and then just a brief overview. I wanted to go really in depth on the player by looking at them, doing a graded scout report, doing some more technical analysis with some like XY data, and yeah, I just wanted to make a really detailed overview of where we should improve the squad.
Awesome. So let's look into this first segment then. League and team performance analysis. If you do a bit of explanation, I'll do a bit of scrolling through the many, many pages of the document. What were your sort of findings last season on League One, which was, regardless of any kind of technical on-pitch stuff, was just a ridiculous season with the table sort of splitting around position 10, and did Plymouth miss
Yeah,
out in the end? I think it was 80 points, didn't get in the playoffs, which was, so we had a very kind of split sort of table. But furthermore than that, what were your sort of findings on last season?
It was more just a look of how we performed against certain teams and certain styles. So what I found from against the different oppositions, we were much stronger against the bottom teams, especially at home. Around the middle teams, we did okay, 1.5 points per game, although that needs to be higher. But away from home against the middle teams, we were shocking, although a lot of that was due to Cook. Against the playoffs, we recorded 1.14 points per game. The playoff chasing pack, and then against the three teams in contention for promotion, we only recorded 0.66 points per game, which is
relegation form,
yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, we need to improve a lot more against the bigger teams. I think that improved when McKenna came in, because a lot of these losses away from home were with Cook. But, yeah.
Do you foresee the table splitting in a similar way next season, or do you think it might look like a bit more what we consider a normal league table, where you have maybe, I don't know, 6 to 8 relegation teams, then you have the teams trying to get away and head to the middle, then you have a little block chasing the playoffs, then you have your good teams, and then you have your automatic chasers? We just didn't get that, did we, last season? Do you think it might be different next?
I'm not sure. I think the quality of League One's gone up with the improved use of data behind the scenes, etc. I think teams are playing. They're paying a lot more attention to oppositions with their approach before games, with their press on the ball shapes. I think it's a lot more interesting. It's a lot more tight now. But yeah, hopefully we've got the quality to prove for it and don't get involved in that mid-table scrap again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So section 2, it's scrolling here. Player performance overview in 21-22 season. Squad depth and style of play analysis. What were your sort of findings there in terms of what the squad looks like already and what it did last season?
There was quite a lot of bodies last season. We covered a lot of areas very well with depth, but the quality when the first 11 were injured, etc., was just not great. A lot of players are out of contract. A lot of players could leave still in the summer. The Pennies, Harpers, maybe even Vincent Young if he isn't satisfied with a squad depth role. Simpson. But yeah, it was a really bloated squad, and it's really important that we get that quality in, as well as having the quantity with the 5 subs next season.
Absolutely. And in terms of the sort of player performance overview, who were the standouts last season that need to be built around from your findings?
Well, the standouts, I'd say Wolfenden and Burns. They've got their new contracts. Donatian, I thought, was superb. I think a lot of the talk that he'll be the one that misses out in the back three just doesn't really make sense. He gets so much out of Burns. He can play as a right back or a right centre back in a free. It just gives us great versatility to just continuously switch in games. Morsey showed up really well on the data as well. His ball carrying, his ability to keep the ball was just superb. Evans is someone that didn't really show up well. I think he ranks in the bottom 5 of all midfielders in League One for defensive duels won, which is just really shocking and not what you expect from a player of his type.
In a midfield too, as well.
Yeah. I think he's got some good attributes though. If you can get him in games where there's going to be time on the ball in midfield, I think he'll be really useful, especially when the opposition are defending narrow. You can get those switches of play going. And I think we really missed him at the end of the season. So we just really had no switches of play in our team at all, with Edmondson getting injured as well.
Mm.
And that just really didn't help our ability to quickly move the ball side to side against the opposition.
Sure. And what about up top?
A mixed bag. I think Norwood looked good on the data, and I would have kept him if he would have signed a contract, just as that poacher off the bench type player he'll get goals wherever he goes. Caden Jackson looked very good on the data. His chance creation numbers were superb. I think he
Is
ranked.
that just based on his running power?
I'd say so, but his crossing ability is very, very good now. I think
It
it's
actually
improved
is,
a
isn't
lot.
it? Yeah, I agree with that.
It's
Yeah.
it's off both feet as well, so you can go in either channel. You can go down the left as well. I think he's better on the left because he can go both ways. But yeah, I think Simpson from Swindon was really raw, but I think the ability he's got is very good, and I'm pretty sad that he's going to be leaving. Bonham Pigott, not the greatest. I think Bon was pretty shoddy apart from his goal scoring and aerial duels numbers. He's red across the board. And then Pigott was shocking in front of goal. I think he ranks in the bottom 20% for shots per 90, so he just wasn't getting in the areas enough.
No.
And yeah.
Cool. Let's dial in then to the bit that people are probably going to be most interested in, and these sort of ideas for signings. And it's quite interesting because let's be honest, some of the transfer talk we hear is fairly ridiculous, isn't it? And it's draw a name out of a hat that may have some kind of tenuous link. Or my general rule with football supporters is they overestimate the prices of the players for the team they support by treble or quadruple often, and they overestimate the players that they're able to sign often by double as well. And in the real world, hopefully, Mark Ashton. To be fair, though, I think there was a couple of very punching signings last season, put it that way. But let me just bring your document up. So this is interesting. This we've been having a laugh in the Blue Monday Telegram group about the word profiles because it's come up so many times, hasn't it? But you've identified 4 areas that I think most of us would agree with here: left wing back, central midfield. In terms of attackers, you've called it like a left-sided 10, so a inside forward, or it's very sort of manoeuvrable across the front with modern football, to sound like an old man, and a striker. So can you just drill into that a little bit in terms of those 4 areas you've identified?
I think the left wing back was the most important. I think Thompson or Penny done enough when on the ball. I think Thompson was a very competitive defender. He had good athleticism, but in build-up, he was pretty uncomfortable. He gave the ball a lot away. And in the final third, he just didn't have any dynamism to take on his man, and his ability to cross wasn't great. And with the way McKenna set us up, I think it's very important that we get a complete left wing back rather than a winger like Burns, which a lot of fans want to do. We just need someone that's more comfortable in many different areas of the pitch. That's just to get the most out of all of our players. Danassian can then play as a right back. You can have Burns playing as a winger, and then you can have Edmondson, who's probably the preferred left centre back. He doesn't have to come too wide if the left wing back's deeper, which helps him on the ball. But they also need to have dynamism going forward because we all know how bad the left side was in terms of chance creation. And yeah, we're just way too dependent on the right side in build up and going forward. And I think it was a really, really key for us to get this position right, as well as getting an adequate backup, because I don't think Penny's good enough. He could be, but he's got too many bad attributes.
Interesting. And you have names. This is good. So left wing back targets there. How many have you got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of them. Crikey. Look, we'll be here all day if we look at all of the players. But is there anybody sort of particularly in terms of that left wing back position? And let me just do some reading for those people who are listening on the podcast. Derry Merkin, Cohen Bramall, Alvaro Fernandez, Callum O'Dowda. Has he transferred already? Has he gone somewhere already?
He's at Cardiff now.
Okay, yeah. Brandon Fleming, Sam Adik Kube, apologies for butchering his name, as I'm about to do with Chima Okoroji, Ellis Iandolo, Brandon Ormonde Otelwill, Harry Boys, Ale Koke, Nikki Caden, Connor Grant is a familiar one, Mikael Miller and George Nurse. Who on that list would be sort of your number one, do you think, Oscar?
So when I looked through this list, I compiled the type of player they are, just a quick summary, and then I had some question marks just to the side of that to just to quickly summarize each player, get a quick overview, so I could then rate them using a color-coded system. I think the three favourites and the ones that are included in the document are Derry Merkin from Voldenham. He's in the Dutch second division. He was born in Colchester, so he's easily gettable with the work permits. Brandon Fleming from Hull was one of them, and so was Connor Grant from Plymouth. One that nearly made it was George Nurse from Shrewsbury. I think he's just good all round, but I was worried about his ability to create chances.
And who's it? Can I, with my championship hat on, say I don't think Brandon Fleming drops a division. I think he's good. I think he's trending upwards. Who's your favourite then? Do you think?
I'd probably say Derry Merkin is my favourite. I think his ability on the ball is just superb. He's quite tall. He used to be a winger in the Voldenham Academy. He got converted to a left back. His technical ability is just superb. Playing in the Dutch division, you'd expect that. And he's got the athleticism to combine with that when he transitions to the English League. The question marks I have about him is that he spent a year out injured this summer, last year. I think he only played 5 games towards the end of the year. Had a foot injury, I think. And also they got promoted, so they're in the Eredivisie now. So it could be quite hard to lure him across.
100%. Right, let's move on to central midfielders. And I think you've already kind of outlined it here, haven't you, in terms of that Morsey's very good and, patently obvious to anyone who, on the eye test, isn't it? But particularly, and I mean, there were times I almost wanted him to drop a third midfielder in there, especially with the wing backs as high as they are. But if you're playing with a midfield too, what do we need in there?
I was mainly looking for someone that had a bit of versatility to their game, someone that was pretty destructive, so they could deputise for Evans, well, play instead of Evans, and then deputise for Morsey. Just give us a bit more battle in midfield, because I thought we struggled with that when Baconson or Evans played alongside Morsey. Just a bit of a battler in midfield, as well as having good on the ball attributes, press resistance, can take the ball in the half turn and drive upfield, good passing range, can sweep up play. And yeah, the main targets I looked for, George Dobson was my number one choice from Charlton. I think he's a very underrated player. He's got the battle in him, the competitiveness, but he's also quite good on the ball. He keeps it well when he's taking people on.
And Charlton have just hired Garner, haven't they? So they've got a new manager in there as well. Sorry, continue.
He's got a really, really good passing range, which combines with Evans quite well. So you don't lose much when either of them switch out. My number 2 choice was Jack Taylor, quite an ambitious one.
That's been linked though by some decent sourcing journalists, though, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, I think he was the profile I kind of wanted. A young, technical player who's competitive, can play in both positions that Morsey and Evans do. Has ability to grow. I think the potential cost was way too high. I think Peterborough were looking for something like 4 million or something, which is just ridiculous at this level for us. And my number 3 choice was Archie Collins from Exeter. This is more of a project player, I'd say. He's not that tall like Evans is, but he's very good in the air. He's got a really good jump on him. I had issues with him whether he could play as a single pivot in a 3-5-2, but I'm sure it could be taught because he's a clever footballer. I think he's played about 150 games or so at the age of 22 already. He's
Crikey.
captained Exeter on multiple occasions as well, so he was someone I was very interested in.
Excellent. So talk to me about how you see central midfield panning out. I know people get grumpy with me on the podcast, but I do think there's times where just tweak that shape and drop the extra central midfielder in. Do you think that might be something we see, and there might be game time for 3 central midfielders, especially with 5 subs?
I think McKenna was very versatile last year. I think if I go back to my style of play analysis, he used a 3-4-3 12 times, 4-2-3-1 6 times, and then used 3-4-1-2 and a 3-5-2 5 times. So he's got the ability to change positions. I think with Aluko, we can easily go back to Aluko and Humphreys can both play as that third midfielder on the right. I think it's quite a seamless transition if either of them do. The positions that they take up and Chaplin take up are very similar, and it'll just be a different shape off the ball. So I think there's definitely the chance to do that as well.
Excellent. Right, let's have a look at these what you call left-sided number 10. And I think a lot of people thought going into last season this was a bit bloated. This, use whatever words you're comfortable with, winger, inside forward, number 10, modern attacker, whatever, that it was like there was almost too many players in these positions. Where do you think we are with this in terms of the sort of depth from what we need?
Yeah, it's quite a weird one because when I look at it now, we look quite short. I think
I agree.
in my final ideal squad depth chart, I've only got 2 players listed as the left side of 10. That was Kyle Edwards and Selena, and you ideally have Kyle Edwards deputising for Burns on the right. So I think we are short there. I mean, Dobra could play there, but I think his time here might be over. So yeah, we're definitely short of quality and depth there, and I think we'll look to bring 2 in.
Interesting.
I think McKenna will go for a 10/an 8 that can play deeper and deputise for Morsey occasionally, or play in a midfield 3. And then he'll also look to go for like a all-action forward, play across the front line, someone with a bit more dynamism maybe.
Give us some names then. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see them on the screen. But who do you like?
My 3 choices were Selena, obviously. Ruben Rodriguez, who comes from Notts County in the National League, so quite a step up, but I think he's got all the abilities to do it, no doubt. I think
Remind me, did not Notts County lost spectacularly in the playoffs, didn't they? Was to Paul Hurst, I think, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was to Grimsby, I think.
Yeah.
2 extra time goals.
It was it was one of those ones where I wasn't watching the game, and all of a sudden my phone's going 10 to double. Are you watching this? No, what's going on? But anyway, sorry. But so that might be a player who's ready to step up in some respect somewhere.
Definitely. I think he's really well rounded. I think he's got superb technical levels, but he's also got really good height and strength. So he'll be able to adapt to the level really good. He can roll off defenders really well. I think he's that like all action player he could also be the forward type. I think he's played up front for Notts County a lot this season, but he's been dropping off. So I think he would be a very good addition. I think Rotherham are interested, which shows his ability, because Rotherham have always been quite good at recruiting players. And my number 3 was Anthony Evans from Bristol Rovers. This wasn't one I was really sure on. He's more of a number 8 than a 10, but I thought his ball striking and ability to create chances were just superb. And I thought he'd definitely be someone that could add to us with set pieces, outside the box, crosses from deep.
And do you think there's any potential? I know it's a bit old-fashioned now, the number 10 off a front 2. Chris Wilder was very sort of successful with it. Ditched it when he got to the Premier League, obviously. But do you think there's any chance of seeing that sort of central number 10 figure with a front two at any point? We'll go on to strikers in a minute, but specifically in this range we're talking about here.
I'm not sure about a central behind a two. I think McKenna likes to use the half spaces a lot more. I think he likes to have that right-sided number 10, a striker potentially dropping off, and then in the left channel have a striker running in behind. He'd like to use Jackson there a lot and Norwood. And I think he'll definitely look to get an aerial type striker to play as the central one next to Jackson, etc.
Interesting. Right. So this is the player that everybody wants, and always amuses me this. Right, we need a striker. What do we need? Okay, someone who's going to score 25 goals, who's 22 years old, who's going to be cheap, who's tall, fast, never gets injured, and you're like, okay, I think you've just described Erling Haaland, and he's gone to Manchester City.
Near enough.
But this was a big problem last year, as you mentioned. What do we need? Football has changed a lot. It's the player that literally just sticks the ball in the net kind of doesn't exist. Certainly in when working with a Kieran McKenna type coach. So what do we need in terms of striker? And we'll look at some names.
I think we need just a more of an aerial threat. Really, I think we really lack that ability to just go back to front really quickly. Someone that can drop in between the lines and just help link up play easily. So I think Norwood and Bond struggled with that type of their game.
Agreed.
I think there was a lot of time where the ball just bounced off them. Same with Pigott. Although his intentions were good to drop in, I think he just didn't have the ability to do it. I think he's the type of striker we want. Someone who has a bit of frame, can drop in, strong in the air.
Don't describe Drogba.
No. But yeah, someone just more of a complete striker. I think when I was looking at the chances we were creating over the course of the season, a lot of them came from heading opportunities. I think we created under McKenna, I think we created an XG of 5 or so from heading opportunities with our strikers and attacking players. And I think we scored 1 goal. So it's definitely an improvement there to be made. I think we create a lot of 1v1s in behind as well. The ability to finish from them is very important as well.
God, it's I don't want to go into Roy Keane mode, but it's his job, isn't it? That's what strikers beg for, don't they? 1v1s.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at, and I'm going to read out these names because these are interesting. Right, Max Watters, Carlton Morris, Johnson Clark Harris, Stephen Humphreys, Ryan Hardy, some successful players from League One last season, George Hurst, Daniel Udo, Least Mousset, Ellis Sims, that's an interesting one, Jerry Yates, Aaron Collins, Callum Hendry, Colby Bishop, he's punished us before, Troy Parrott, Corley Woodrow. I assume you popped Freddie Ladapo on there quite accurately before we actually signed him. Talk to me about some of those names and talk specifically about Ladapo if you want for a minute, because you'd identified him on there already.
Yeah, I think Ladapo, he'll get goals. There's no doubting about that. I think his availability will be an issue. I think he only played, the last 3 seasons at Rotherham, he hasn't played over 25 games, 25 starts. So
can we give the caveat there, Oscar, that they got Smith and they did like a one up front and loads of central midfielders, didn't they?
Yeah, that was in the Championship, wasn't it?
I mean, towards it, when they were dropping off at the end of the season, we started to. Do you remember when Rotherham just started losing strangely, and we sort of started to see that a little bit in the Championship. God, definitely, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, he's a poacher. He'll get goals, but he's also got good ability off the ball. He's okay in the air, not amazing. He's not the complete striker that I want to bring in. I think he's that second striker, and if he doesn't start, he comes off the bench and makes an impact. Right. I think he'll be contending with Jackson for that left inside forward role. So just run the channel. He's got really good 1v1 ability when he gets in behind. He works shots for himself really, really well. I think that's another key thing I was looking for in a striker. A lot of the chances we created are in congested boxes, and we need people that can work a yard of space very quickly, get a shot off. I think Chaplin's very good at that, which is helpful.
Yeah, very
And I
much
think
so.
if we can increase our chance creation down the left, create more cutback opportunities, I think Chaplin could easily get 15, 20 goals.
Yeah, with his early shooting ability, like you say, and
Yeah.
shifting the ball a little. Who else on that list? Because there's some interesting names there. Who do you like?
My number one target was Carlton Morris. Quite ambitious. I think the fact Barnsley got relegated mean they don't really want to sell to us. He's a really, really big threat in the channels. In me, we can go direct either in behind or to feet or in the air. He can hold it up. He's got a good ability between the lines as well. He played on the wing for Barnsley a lot, although they were very direct. In their spell under Ismail, he still had a job to do on the ball.
Oh, he made a big
floor.
impact when they arrived, and I suspect if you ask Marcus Schopp, who was Barnsley manager for about 13 games, I think he only had Morris for two games before he got injured.
Yeah.
He might think he would have lasted a bit long. Do you think some Championship teams might bid for Carlton Morris though?
Yeah, I can see MK Dons going in for him, especially.
Yeah, he was there on loan, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, with Russell Martin as well. I think he's good friends with Russell Martin.
Oh, you mean
they
Swansea?
Were there together at Swansea, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They were there together at Norwich and MK Dons.
Right, yeah.
And I could see that one happening, especially if Michael Obafemi gets sold. I have worries about his finishing record. I don't think he's the greatest of finishers. I also don't think it's something we need. I don't think we need a 20-goal striker, because I think we got 3 players with Jackson Ladapo and the next man to come in that can easily get between them 40, 45 goals. Then got the 2 10s. I think Morsey can do more. We got Wes Burns on the right.
Yeah.
We got potentially, if we get the right left back in, who's a threat at the back post, like Markin would be, we can increase the goals there, and also set pieces. I think we don't need to get a 20-goal striker. It's just about
be nice though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be nice. But I think we've got enough threat there.
No, I agree. It's about balance, isn't it? Talk to me about some of these other names on here.
George Hurst, I'm a big fan of. Really tall, can stretch or play, drop off. He can hold the ball up. I don't think he's the greatest between the lines, but I think
that a freebie as well? Is he out of?
No. I think Transfer Market said he was out of contract, but I'm not sure that's true. I think there is a fee involved.
Okay.
Plus he's under 23, so even if it was a free, it'd be compensation involved.
Right.
I think he's improved a lot under the Cowleys at Portsmouth. I watched a couple of his first games. He was very raw. You could see the abilities was there, but
yeah, I remember him not cutting it. He went on loan to Rotherham, in a team that ultimately got relegated, but they, ended up not really using him. So I think he needed to come to League One and figure it out, didn't he?
I think with his age at 23, I think he'll be a project player. Someone McKenna would back himself to develop. I think he's got all the abilities. He's great in the air. He's very good at finishing 1-on-1 as well, especially in that right channel. And yeah, he's got the lot. I think he's one that can develop into a big money move if played right.
Sure. Talk to me a bit about Ellis Sims, because I remember Neil Critchley, who still can't believe is now assistant manager at Aston Villa rather than managing Blackpool. But it was Sims and Yates the previous season when they went up, and I thought Sims was excellent.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's above our level now. I think he might have a strong pre-season at Everton. I think he's really, really good physically.
Championship loan, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. And if not, he'll be a squad player at Everton. I think League One, I think it's below us now. Unless he went in permanent, his contract's for 2024, 2 years left. I think it'd be a really big fee. I think he had a decent season at Hartsley last year. And he was very good at Blackpool, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's just too two above our level.
Okay. Give me a more realistic one then.
The third one I went for was Corley Woodrow. Someone I think we've been linked with. He's different to Morris and Hurst. He's not a threat in behind. He doesn't have as good of an ability in the air, but his ability between the lines is top notch. And I think if we utilise him, I think this will need a change in system potentially. If we can play him next to Ladapo or Jackson, I think they'll both succeed in equally. If we could just get him between the lines, I think Pigott. We tried to do that a lot with Pigott last year. I think McKenna's the frequency McKenna used him showed he likes his profile, which is very similar to Woodrow, but obviously Pigott didn't cut it, whatever the reason that was. But yeah, I like Woodrow. I think he's got a really good threat outside the box, which is something we really lacked again. That could be another route for getting goals.
It's just that issue you raised, Oscar, of Barnsley would, I'm sure, rather sell to the Championship, get more money, and then not to a rival in terms of.
Yeah.
But what we have seen with Barnsley in the last few years is they're not afraid any transfer window to ship out 8 and bring 10 in. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Look, Johnson Clark Harris is the kind of home run League One goal machine. Where do you see him ending up? He's on your list.
I think he's another that's above our level. He was put in mainly because I think his qualities would really suit us. He'd score goals, really good in the air. His back to goal play is superb, I think. I watched him at Bristol City Peterborough earlier this season and he was superb. I think some question marks I have over him, obviously the fee. Secondly, Peterborough won't sell to us. I don't think he's the most athletic. I think I remember when Peterborough were in League One, they didn't really press much from the front because of Clark Harris's mobility levels. I don't think he's the greatest at running in the channels, but he's obviously a goal scorer and he'd get 25 plus, wouldn't he?
Probably at most League One clubs, frankly, wouldn't he? If you just stick him in there, make chances for him, and hide his weaknesses, like you suggested. And what is going to become of Troy Parrott, because he sort of played in a. I mean, he wasn't good for us. I think we can all admit that, but we can all admit the mitigating factors that Lambert kind of lost the plot tactically, or some believe never had it in the first place, did he? But he looked much different. I saw him a couple of times in the flesh for MK. Looked like this dynamic inside forward. Feels more like one of your inside left players rather than your central striker, doesn't he? But where's he likely to end up?
Well, on his inclusion in the list, I think he was one that if Jackson was to not sign his contract, he was one I'd look for. Someone that can play in the inside left, of course. Someone that can play up front because his abilities off the ball are superb as well. He's got a great all-round game, but definitely needs to improve his scoring record. I think he heavily underperformed his XG this season.
Oh, they created loads as well, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Awesome stuff, Oscar. So just go on, I'll hold your feet to the fire. Give me one name for each position, left wing back, central midfielder, left-sided 10 and striker. Go.
Left back, Derry Merkin's my number one choice, although Conor Grant would be superb as well. Centre midfielder, Dominic Ball obviously has came in now, so I think it's a bit ruled out, but George Dobson.
Okay.
Left-sided 10, my number one was Selena. And up front, my number one is Carlton Morris.
Excellent stuff, Oscar. Everyone's been taking the mickey out of me in the Blue Monday Telegram because I want us to sign some 33-year-old somewhere. Now, I know you're heavy data, and there is no data that measures somebody's influence and somebody's, ability to come into a squad and, make things sort of, I don't know, tick off the pitch and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you agree? To be fair, most people disagreed with me and they want kind of young players coming in. But we're a club, Oscar, that's had let's be fair, a rubbish mentality or lack of winning mentality into decades now. Do you not see there's someone you can maybe drop in, maybe someone experienced, and I don't want to be mean to our current squad, but who's been places and done things in the game that a lot of our squad haven't?
Potentially. I think at the back we do we lack a leader? I think Edmondson's a good leader. Maybe we lack some experience at the back, although that would probably require Burgess leaving. I think in midfield we've got Morsey, Evans and Ball. I think we're fine there. We've got a Luco. We've got senior figures in midfield. I think up front, I think this conversation came off the back of the link to Danny Hilton, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I'm not saying you signed Danny Hilton from Luton, who had horrific injury problems the year before, and play him for 35 games in a team going to get promoted. But in respects of having somebody around the place, you know what I'm saying? That can be the difference.
Yeah, it can be important. I think we're fine in that respect, because I think we've got Ladapo and Jackson who are already 28 and 29. I think we need to get a younger striker in just for the future. I think there won't be much. I mean, both of their games is very reliable on pace, very reliant on pace, and I think both of them may come to an end in the next few years. And I think we need to get a striker in who's a bit younger.
Yeah.
Although I get your point.
yeah. I'm trying to talk about unquantifiable things. It's one of those arguments that's impossible to prove or disprove anyway. So it's just an interesting debate. Oscar, that is absolutely tremendous. Give us another plug then for the 100 pages of lovely goodness. Where can people find it, and where can they find you?
If you go on to Twitter and find my page, ITFC Analytics, you can find my pinned tweet, which is the link to my recruitment document. I spent a lot of time doing it. Any feedback or support for it would be very appreciated. And plans for the summer. They can do some scout reports, get some squad depth charts going when the season starts. And during the season, hopefully I can do some more opposition analysis. It's what I enjoy doing. I didn't do it anywhere near enough last year. Hopefully do some more of that. Get some more post-match analysis going as well. And yeah.
Fantastic stuff, Oscar. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Obviously, if you want to hear from Oscar again, who brings a bit of a different kind of slant than anyone on the pod, we kind of look at the basic metrics on the pod, but we don't really go into the sort of detail that someone like yourself would. Frankly, none of us would profess to understand a lot of the data, so we'll rely on you for that. But if you want to hear from Oscar again, and he's willing, we will most definitely make that happen. Just give us a shout at Blue Monday ITFC. Please, as ever, subscribe and like if you're on YouTube, and we'll try and keep things ticking over. We'll probably be fairly reactionary throughout the close season, where hopefully we'll have some more lovely signings to talk about. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again, Oscar, for coming on. And we will see you soon on the Blue Monday podcast with hopefully some of these names on this here document, holding up a shirt in the director's box up at Portman Road.